Welcome to our weekly Soul Changes Lives webinar, everyone. My name is Debbie Perez-Cochran. I'm so happy to be with you. For this summer, we're doing this class every other week. So the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. And of course, as usual, we'll have testimonials today. We'll have a fun health tip. And we will also have a wonderful class today from one of Soul's founders. He is the president and CEO of Soul, my best and dearest friend, Greg Halliday, who just celebrated a landmark birthday, I think, July 9th. And so we're excited. And I know that Dr. Jenkins is celebrating a landmark birthday at the end of July. So I'm just excited to be with all of you. And just as a quick reminder, I only dispense good news about supplementation. I am not a medical doctor. I am not a licensed doctor. I do not prescribe or diagnose, neither do any of our panelists on our class. Also want to remind you that if you are willing to share a testimonial on our class live during our webinar every other week, I will send you some sort of soul swag. And so I'm just excited because Jaliva just earned a Soul Sister t-shirt and a hat, and Sybil's gonna, excuse me, Sybil's also winning something today. And I see my friend Victoria. It's good to see you, Victoria. It looks like Victoria's on vacation. All righty. So we're gonna go ahead and turn the time over to my friend Sybil, who is going to share the testimonial today. Sybil, open your mic.
Hey, y'all. I'm Sybil from Daytona Beach, Florida, and I've been an herbalist since 1991. And Greg and Debbie were some of my first teachers. And I started looking a couple years ago because I discovered that some of the supplements I was using had pork in them. And right after I heard my very first distributor school, I made a vow to God that I wasn't going to eat unclean animals anymore because cancer runs in my family, or can we say that? Irregular cells run in my family. So I decided that I was going to, if God gave his best to the Jews, and I was going to do that, because what I noticed in my classes, the same thing that was in the Bible that God told the Jews not to eat, was the same thing we were learning that had high rates of carcinogens. So I just made that vow. And then I discovered that, I don't know when, but instead of grass-fed beef, pork had been substituted as an ingredient. And I was very disturbed about it. And I lost a friend over it who had been using supplements with pork when they didn't eat pork either. So I asked Debbie, I saw what she was doing on Facebook, on social media, and I asked her, hey, do you have anything? And all I wanted was just something to digest my food without pork in it. And then she invited a mutual friend to visit her when she's going to be in Florida for it. It was like a leaders conference that you were at Sandestin last year. I don't know the name of it, what y'all were at, but I decided every year to do something special on my birthday, because that's the saddest day of the year for me, because my daughter's dead, and I had sad things. So I try to do something happy for my birthday. And when the other friend thought Sandestin was too far and I live farther, I was like, I'll come. So on the way there, I decided to learn about soul. I thought, wow, I'm going all this way and I'm going to see Debbie, who is really an acquaintance, not even my close friend, but I just felt an urgency that I had to go see her. And on the way, I found on YouTube Soul Naturals, and it was Dr. Caldwell talking about validating people and talking about, my birthday's May 2nd, so it was about mental health awareness. And that's the thing closest to my heart. I've mentioned before, I'm an adult survivor of childhood abuse. And I'm just going to mention real quick, ACE. If you look that up on TED Talks, you can learn how the insurance companies have known for years that people with adverse childhood experiences have the highest rate of suicide and the highest rate of all degenerative diseases and death of any population group, but our doctors never ask us. So I'm on a roll I just want to spread the word that we probably have a lot of friends that people don't talk about it. And the statistics now are 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys. So it's something that should be talked about. And what I love is that Soul Naturals will let you talk about mental health issues, and they don't say, oh, that's not appropriate, but they say, yeah, we want to help people with mental health issues. So instead of just getting my little enzyme, look what's behind me. I have everything Soul now. And I've been using it since May 1st of last year when I finally arrived. I think I was supposed to be there May 1st. And I think I actually missed my birthday because it was so hard for me to pack. I got there in the middle of the night. Poor Debbie, she didn't know what to do with me because she was going to do business. And then she ended up letting me stay the whole week. And I was in a lot of pain and couldn't walk and couldn't attend a lot of things, but it was such a blessing. And ever since, I've just been using the products, and I haven't learned that much about the compensation or anything. I just wanted to get well. And now I'm not only well, but I have an office, and I have an IT person, and I have an assistant, and my life is very changed. And my story was similar to Mrs. Halliday because I started with depression after my second baby. And I had managed to balance it out some with the other company, but when I went through a period of hardship and financial reversals after divorce, I couldn't take care of myself, and I was in an accident with head injury. And what I really love is I'm getting help for my head injury. And even though I'm slow, I can't do a lot of things in the office, or it takes way too long to write a letter because it's too much. But I just thank God because I see progress with my brain health and my ability to function. And I'm just grateful for Soul. And I love the new, I did the program #1 all the time. That's just the one I need. And then I add other things as I tell Debbie. I just have to say this. One day I called Debbie, I said, what do I do? I know if I have diarrhea with the other company, I do Sybil, but what do I do for Soul? Because it's red, yellow, green, and blue is all I know. And when she told me the fiber, I was stunned. And then I really paid attention to the ingredients. I got so excited, it's thrilling to me to see the research that's going behind all this. So thank you so much, Greg, for all that you've done. And thank you for putting mental health awareness out there. So many people, especially now after the pandemic, they need that. And I just can't tell you how you've answered the prayers that I was crying out to God. And I'm just so grateful. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Sybil. And I have to say again, I don't know how many pounds you've lost. I know that was a byproduct of using how many? 50? That's amazing. And that's just a byproduct. As you heard Sybil say, she came into it because she had other needs. And it's amazing what Soul can do. That's why my webinar is called Soul Changes Lives, because it really does change lives. I'm just so grateful that you're doing well, Sybil. I'm glad to see Flora Price, who's joining us today for the first time too. So welcome, everyone. I want to turn the time over to Greg, but before I do that, because I know Greg always has some great encouragement for whoever shares a testimonial, I wanted to introduce the topic today. We're talking about Verdezymes. If you've ever looked at the label and you wondered what protease 1, 2, 3, and 4 are, we're going to discover part of that mystery today, because we can't give away the whole formula, right? Because it's proprietary and it's part of my heart too. So I wouldn't want anyone to copy, but if you look at this enzyme product, and today we're going to talk about just all of the virtues of enzymes, especially proteolytic enzymes, the proteases that are in here, 4 different protease, but we have a lot of other enzymes in here that could be considered great digestive enzymes by themselves. And then there's a calming herbal blend. So when you think of Verdezymes, please don't think just digestion. Today, I hope we'll discuss the first part. Next class, we'll go ahead and discuss the second parts of this formula. Sybil, I'll give you a second in a minute, okay? And then we'll go ahead and talk about this today. This is an amazing product. I asked Greg if he would talk about the multi-pH protease blend, because I know what some of the protease blends are in here. He'll talk to us about two, but I wanted to draw your attention, and he's going to show a greater picture of the label in a minute. It just talks volumes about the quality of the protease that we use and the things that we're doing at Solle that make us so different from what you find on the market. So Sybil, you have 30 seconds to say what you need to say, and I'm going to turn the time over to Greg.
Well, I never noticed it has wood betony. And back in the 90s, a friend of mine went to be a missionary to translate the Bible in the Philippines. And we ordered from Stephen Horn special wood betony. And she used that instead of the other stuff because she had liver trouble. And she never got any, you know, they give you stuff when you go to the Philippines. I can't remember what, but she used wood betony all year and never had any health issues. Okay, that's all. Thank you.
That's great. We will talk about the wood betony in 2 weeks from now, Sybil, and why it's part of the Verdezymes. But I'm just so excited, Greg, because this really is groundbreaking product. This is something that I've never seen before. I've seen a lot of herbal products over the years. I had never really considered how important the different forms of protease are, why the pH balance is so different from one to another, and why that's important to us as individual human beings, and how it actually helps to clean the blood. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you. And thank you for being with us always, twice a month. I love it.
You bet, Deb. Thank you for inviting me. And hello, everybody. And thank you, Sybil, for sharing your story. I just think more than anything, the reason we organized Solle was to share. I feel like we're doing good if every bit of the information that we acquire over time from experience or from publications, from very often from scientists, from herbalists, from all sources, if we pass it on, because we don't want to stay with any of it. We want everyone else to know what we know. Then everyone else has the same chance to manage their own situation. And I just believe so deeply that people have it in them to do amazing things. And we do have to have health to have that kind of clarity and focus in our life. And to have health, I think the first surprise that we sometimes offer to people at Solle, it kind of goes with what Sybil was saying. Yes, we want to talk openly about health, and health includes mental and emotional health. There is no health without that. I believe that all of us need extra therapeutic nutrition there. And we also need a network of support. That sometimes means someone that we can talk to. And sometimes it's professionals that we get to talk to. All of it is good. All of it's important. The Solle family is a supportive network. Really, half of the reason for that is to provide for each other that vital support that we need in our lives. And I think the nutrition that we offer, our commitment is just to make sure that it's pure, that it's very dense. In other words, there's a lot of therapeutic nutrition in a small amount of material. That was one of our founding principles, because sometimes, maybe even a lot of times, people give up on natural supplements because they don't see enough soon enough. We don't always have a mentor to teach us, hey, give it a little time, help us be consistent. And if we can bring denser nutrition, but that is still balanced, that's not isolated out of the plant into just one component, that also causes them, can help things, but it can cause other imbalances. When we can keep things as best we can in the balance of nature, but also concentrate them, then people do start to see these normalizations of health imbalances, and some aspects of improvement can happen immediately, enough to where hopefully people will stay with it. So that's kind of a little short blurb on why Solle's organized the way we are. Every single product has some nutrients for whatever the physical aspects are, focuses are, and then the corollary, mentally and emotionally. And people kind of, I think nowadays, most people anyway would agree, hey, if I improve my nutrition, I improve my physical health. I still think people are shocked by if I improve a certain group of nutrients, my mental health immediately becomes stronger. You know, even while I'm trying to work through, in other means, the issues that I want to work through, nutrition can boost that process, can help us along the way, can put us in a better spot. And so that's what Soul's all about. So that's why we're so open about it. We believe it's right there at the core. And I just have to say something about wood betony, because yeah, we're talking about Verdezymes today, and we're only going to talk about the enzymes. Like Debbie said, next time we'll talk about the herbs, because that's what's a little unique, is that we have some herbs in it as well. Wood betony is one of the herbs that Sybil saw. And there's a reason that there are two very famous quotes from Europe on wood betony. Way back in Roman times, and spreading and continuing through Italy, through present day Italy, this saying was popular: sell your coat or your cloak and buy wood betony. That was a very popular saying: sell your coat and buy wood betony, because anything and everything to do with the head, from infections to inflammation to nerve protection to, we'll talk about it next week, but wood betony is an adaptogen, we believe. You don't always see it on the lists, but we believe it's actually an adaptogen. And then secondly, the Spanish, they were fond of saying, speaking of a woman, they'd say she has more virtues than wood betony. So it's a very famous herb in Europe. We don't even know about it here, but we're trying to change that, right, with Soul. Not very many people would, if you just went on the street and said, you know what wood betony is? Not too many people would say, oh yeah, I know exactly what that is. We're trying to make it part of daily nutrition here, because it's a game changer. So anyway, if I can share my screen real fast, let me show you the label that Debbie was talking about. And let's see here. I got to make sure I get the right one. Let's see if it's showing up here. I think I've got it. Does that show now? So I'm just taking it off the website. You know, you can select any product, right? And then click on it, and then click again. It gets big. The label gets big. So this is the back panel of Verdezymes. And so notice the first group, it says plant source enzymes. If you look at the three groups of ingredients, plant source enzymes is the first, multi-pH protease blend is the second, and then the calming herbal blend with fiber tract, which is what we'll talk about next time. So you can see the bulk of it is enzymes, but there's still a good amount in a serving, and a serving is 2 capsules. But again, listen to your body. I've known some people that will use 1 and some people that will use 3, and you listen to your body. And very often people start with this where it's very simple. I just take 2 with every meal. I am so compromised in my digestion. I can say this, that a majority of Americans are in that boat. And it's not just for reasons of what we eat, even though a lot of it is. It's also for the emotional stresses, especially in the last 2 or 3 years, which have compromised these reparative, restorative, regenerative processes of the body that happen when that side of the nervous system is activated, that same side of the nervous system that digests food and assimilates, and sparks all those processes, that the body can go, okay, I got some fuel. I can start to fix things. But what happens if we only provide enough fuel to deal with what's going on today? Do we make any improvement over time? I'm not sure we do. If we do, very little. And I think very often in our nutritional intake, both I'm talking about like on tabletop meals, but also let's lump it together with supplements. All of that together, trying to make good choices. You know, we don't have to be perfect, but trying to make good choices there. Very often we actually fall just a little bit short, and so the body's scrambling always. And then you throw in the stress side with things that we're going through, or that others are, that we join in to help with, whatever that might be. And it's not hard to see how over time we sort of just go, we become less and less imbalanced, and we just chalk it up to aging. Oh, we're just aging. Okay, but we don't have to, not like that. We really don't have to. So I've just submitted, this is just purely the philosophy I personally have adopted over the years, listening to wonderful people like several of you who have shared, and lecture scientists, and et cetera, okay, in this industry. The philosophy I've adopted is that if you make sure that your nutrition covers the needs of today, and that involves learning how to listen to your body. It's not that hard to do that. It's not like a pure guess. We can listen to our body. If I make sure and cover the needs of the day and just add a little, in other words, exceed it a little bit in the quality of nutrients, that's more easily done with supplements than it is with foods. It's really hard to do that with foods, but it's not hard to do that with supplements. Then exceed it. Then the body, I believe, has something to work with to improve, not just dealing with what's quote unquote the fuel that's being burned today. I can handle that. My body can create all the energy it needs. My mind can, mentally, I'm able to handle where I need to go emotionally. And if I make sure that I bring a little extra to the table, and that's why I think Debbie works in programs like she does, because programs bring extra to the table, then I believe that the body can start to fix things then, even things that we've dealt with for many years. That's my philosophy. The center of that philosophy is this label you're looking at today, the very dead center. Why? Because enzymes are such important catalysts to this process. They're involved in the very process of converting fuel to energy and important chemicals that the body needs and that it produces and uses and then balances itself with, the response chemicals. And so that's why we start off with a broad group of enzymes that covers all the types of food. And that's kind of all I'll say on that. It will cover fats and sugars and proteins and the other components that come with all of that when you eat them, in a way that will handle any typical meal, even a really good meal. Now, if it's a huge meal, and a person's got issues, you can talk with your mentor about your levels of capsules. I mean, adjust it according to your need, but it's really, really well put together to cover those. I mean, one example is that glucoamylase. That's one that years ago got a lot of talk. It's in that first group. It got a lot of talk because it does more than just simply digest. There are a lot of therapeutic processes of the body that it is involved in, including the health of our pancreas, et cetera, et cetera. So that first group, we could talk more about it, but today our focus is the second group. That's what Debbie asked me to address. But the first group is very, very important. The second group is simply a pullout of the 4 different protein digestive enzymes we included. And the first thing I want to say is these are all from plants. They're actually mostly from fruits, but they're all from plants. Sometimes people feel like it's more powerful if it's, and I think this is true in our society, if it's synthetic and they can ramp up some really high values and call it a more potent, or if it's from an animal source, because in some things you can find a more concentrated amount in a certain, like an example would be omegas that fish. However, more powerful and a concentrated amount in animals is 2 different things. And what I would like to suggest today is that the most powerful is a plant source, because to me, power is a function of how readily the body can leverage the nutrition. How easy is it to use and how much change happens because of it? How much good is done? The body does not have to work nearly so hard when the nutrition comes from plants. Now, of course, there are some plants out there that just aren't easy to digest and aren't really meant and aren't particularly edible. I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about very well-known and very well-studied plants and very densely nutritious plants. We only use those at Soll. So these proteases, they all come from various plants. You'll notice it says multi-pH. Debbie kind of alluded to that. This is one of the, I guess, secrets that we should share in Soll with others. Sometimes people have used enzymes, including protein digestive enzymes, and said, oh, that doesn't really work for me. And they can even buy a high concentration one. Well, I took this and it's supposed to be really good for instance, pulling down inflammation, for pain. These are some things that 60, 70 plus years ago, doctors who were educated would prescribe for several times a day on an empty stomach for pain and inflammation. Why? Because they really work. If you get a good quality and you get enough, you have to have enough of anything. So these proteases, they do balance and they repair things. And nowadays, we can show all sorts of things. The Germans have done studies showing with athletes showing that if you'll take these at night on an empty stomach, muscles will repair. You can actually you can fix from muscle injury and just when muscles are worked, they're in effect injured anyway, and then the body works to repair them in a resting state. So why is the pH aspect important? Because they all actually are optimized in certain pH ranges. And if you go outside of their pH range, they barely work at all. So in other words, each one of these that we've chosen here, and the reason we chose 4, one of the most important reasons is they have a different pH that they work in. There's a lot of overlap in them, but they together, all 4 of them cover the broadest range of pH that we could find. So no matter what you have going on, because I also will disagree with people that say, oh, internally you have the same pH essentially. That's just not true. And people have different things going on in the digestive and intestinal tract that affects that. And so we have 4 kinds to maximize the variety. That's the second principle that I've become converted to in this. The first one is that I get enough and of the right sources and a little extra, so the body can do some work to make things better, to repair, because it's always rebuilding, right? It has to, it rebuilds with what it has. If you improve what it has, when it rebuilds the next cycle, every few weeks, every few months, different cells of the body, now it can rebuild better because it has something better than it used to have. So that principle of having enough and a little extra is one. The second one is have enough variety. And that's why we do seek to bring all sorts of plants from all over the world. We sometimes talk about that with Infatuate, our healthy fats. We talk about all the different continents that these ingredients came from. We're talking about the African continent. We're talking about South American continent, North American. Why? Because their group of nutrients is a little different. Their structure is a little different. And we can fill gaps that are existing in our nutritional intake now, some of which come also because of stresses, and others of which come because of chemicals and toxins that just are part of our life now, that create other needs that we didn't used to have. And we could probably list 2 or 3 other reasons why there are more gaps in our nutrition. But in all of this, the body is so amazing. It has processes to balance and repair, but we need enzymes, and specifically protein digestive enzymes. There are so many studies that show the difference they make if you just include them in your diet, from blood, cholesterol in blood sugar, to abnormal cell. Sybil referenced that earlier, to the whole process of repair. I kind of look at it really simplistically. The body has means to repair and restore and bring to harmony about anything that comes its way. And the same thing with the mind. If we get the right nutrients, enough of them, a broad enough variety, and a chance, some amount of rest or reduction of anxiety, reduction of stress, where the body can go, okay, yeah, I can work on this now. And the mind can say, I can work on this now. I can improve this now. This is how I view it. So that's why we have these proteolytic enzymes in 4 different types, because we have different acid levels, and they all are optimized slightly differently. Secondly, they're all a little different in what they do. And science has learned a lot, but there's a bunch we don't know. I think if we were honest, we would say this improves, for instance, a blood, in terms of blood cleaning and that whole aspect. And it's not clear why. I love to see sometimes scientific publications where they will show what they observed, and afterwards They might say a thing or two of what they think it is, but if they put in the phrase and it's not clear why the rest of this happened, because that's being honest, because there's a lot we don't understand. When I think that's the case with these proteolytic enzymes. Now, notice how Debbie said that they're just labeled 1, 2, 3, and 4. But afterwards, you can see the value of the quantity. Why are those? I know those numbers are all different because the manufacturers of these, or the suppliers, because we actually manufacture the product ourselves, but we get them from a couple of suppliers. They use different measures because of the different nature of the protease, different fruit. And I'll tell you, 2 of them are papaya and pineapple. They come from, one is papain, one is bromelain. Bromelain, because there are many studies and those are wonderful. The other 2 we sort of keep as our house recipe. But they are pure plant enzymes. And when they extract them, they do use different measures. But this tells you how much, and so, or the potency. And so what we did is when we blended these with our chemist, we actually looked at the pH, then we looked at the quantities that are necessary to do all the protein digestion, plus this other use of taking it on an empty stomach and having it be a good, let's say on the high side of a healthy dose for repair work, is how I would put it. And that's why when you look at directions here on the right side of the label, 2 capsules with meal or 3 at night before bedtime. Okay, it was designed to look at that to be enough in the original formula. And then we went back to our chemist and said, okay, these are the values we've got. These are the 4 proteolytic enzymes. This covers this process completely, right? Yes. Now we want you to double it. And so we actually had him double just this middle group. So what you see here is not just a variety of pure plant protein digestive enzymes. It's actually a double dose of what you would normally take. This is why Verdezymes can be such a game changer for people if they understand it, because it can be used with meals. You don't have to use an over amount of these capsules. That's why I always tell people, try 1 at first, see what it does, then try 2. Start small and go and listen to your body and go up and just see what the result is. You don't need to use more than you need. But if you're going to use it for health building, restoring, whether that's emotional, physical, mental, then we switch the dial a little and say, let's talk about nighttime away from a meal on an empty stomach, or fasting, and trying them there. Every so often you'll hear somebody that, like, I'll try it in that situation and it burned a little here. And often that's because they just get stuck right here. They don't have enough moisture to get all the way down. And so it's not that their body's reacting. It's literally that those enzymes are doing their job, but they're open. You've got them open too soon. So you want to make sure you drink enough water with them and you get them there. But the protease blend is a multi-pH, a broader pH than you'll see in any other formula. And it also is a double dose. And the reason for that is I would say it's maybe 60-40 our emphasis in this formula, the 40% being good digestion. There's plenty, everything you need there. The 60% being, let's use this to make your life better. Let's put this in here so your body has something beyond what it needs for your foods, your meals of the day, and something beyond that it can go in and look at all the things that protein digestive enzymes can improve. And really, it's the most core functions of imbalance that protein digestive enzymes address, because inflammation isn't that part of almost all imbalances. I'm talking about an over amount of inflammation where it starts to impede, and then pain follows. Anything that interrupts or blocks the flow of energy or the flow of oxygen and fluids and liquids in the body, that even the clarifying process, we could have put these protease in a yellow bottle, because they are clarifiers as well. So they do so many different things, and they're right at the core. They're kind of a unique little group, and that's why we pulled them out here so you can see. This isn't just a conglomeration of enzymes. It's actually a very specific complete food enzyme, but restorative and reparative enzyme product. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll talk about the herbs and why those are in there as well, along with this fiber tract, this weird name fiber tract.
I love that, Greg. It made me think of so many things. And it's not that I discounted the first group, because I know how important it is to have amylase and lipase, particularly in a formula like this, because of what they address separately. And we can talk about it in 3 classes if you think we need 3 classes, or I don't know if we can combine the calming herb blend with the plant sourced enzymes. It might be a little bit too much. So I think we're gonna have to divide it into 3 classes. But the main reason I wanted you to talk about the multi-pH protease blend and why I think it's such a game changer is because you mentioned at the heart of everything is cellular inflammation, right? When we're talking about inflammation on a cellular level, it can degenerate so many systems in the body, right? And so the multi-pH protease blend attacks that directly because of the different levels of pH. And I'm going to just quote Blake, because I had asked Blake this question a month ago, thinking about what we would do on this class. And I know you did it for part of my group on Friday and the other part of my group yesterday. And this is what Blake said. And this is why the question came up, you guys, because you know, most of you are very well-seasoned herbalists. You've been doing it as a business. I worked on the corporate side. And so you know that you have customers who say, yes, but I need pepsin. And pepsin is mostly animal derived, right? And Sol has a strict policy about animal-based product. Why? Because so many people are looking for better alternatives. They want the vegetable, they want the plant for religious benefits or for health benefits or for whatever, because they don't consume animal products. And so even our capsules, like our Omega, our gel caps, are amazing. They were discontinued temporarily. They are back, by the way, discontinued temporarily because Sol uses chia in a certain form, as well as Irish moss, to make that capsule in the best way possible for everyone. And this is what Blake said about pepsin, okay? So he says that the proteolytic enzyme blend in Verdezymes contains plant-based acid-stable protease. That's the pH. That's the group that we're talking about. He says, as well as papain and bromelain, which Greg mentioned. These plant-based enzymes actually work just like or better than pepsin. Why? Because they are plant-based, and because there are 5 different sources, they cover a broad range of pH levels, okay? So people who come to you and say, I want pepsin, are people who generally don't know what they're talking about if they're saying they want something that's plant-based. Because,
well, I think, and Deb, sorry to jump in on you, but
yeah,
but I think it's usually just a matter of education, right? No one sat down and explained what you're teaching us, because I remember, even though we were at the same company before, I was using the animal-based one because we'd travel a lot.
Right.
We'd late at night with a meeting. It might be 9:30 or 10, and I hadn't had dinner, so I'm eating and like I can't go to bed. You know, my stomach's, and so I learned quickly if I took enzymes, I actually could go to sleep. Well, I noticed, I can't even remember, Debbie, who turned me on to a plant sourced. But when I first tried it, I thought I did it because I ran out of the animal one, because I thought I needed pepsin, you know, and the truth was I was shocked. I'm not going to lie to you. When I first took a plant sourced enzyme, it actually worked as well or better. And I'll tell you, the better was because the one that we used also had hydrochloric acid, which sometimes was over much. So you never get that with plant. So what I soon quickly realized is I just didn't have the education. And I think that's why people demand it, because it's just the thing that people know about. They just say, oh, get pepsin, you know.
Exactly. And what I've seen, like you saw, if you go to bed on a full stomach, you can't sleep, right? And so your body really needs to sleep, but it needs to digest the food. And so it has to do one or the other. It can't do both. And when it tries to, it doesn't do either one well. And that's why most people have a lot of intestinal problems because they are not digesting well, or they're eating too late, or they're too stressed. And we'll talk about this more in a couple of weeks. But that's why that calming herbal blend is so wonderful in there. And then the plant sourced enzymes that really help break down all the food, right? But I just wanted to have you maybe share Darcy's testimonial, for example, about using the product. And I will tell you about a person that I knew at the other company who was suffering from bulging discs, severe pain, doubled over in severe pain. And so turned her on to some enzymes at night on an empty stomach. And because of this whole science of using plant-based protease, how it can really help in degenerative type situations in body systems to break down those silly, membranes on certain proteins in your body that cause inflammation. Like a virus, for instance, if you're fighting a flu, the best thing you can do is add some protease to your body, because it helps break down that membrane of the virus and actually destroys the virus. But, and Darcy had a totally different problem. Why don't you tell us about Darcy?
Yeah, and I'll tell you about Darcy, but you made me think of something with the like gases and bloating and feelings of, extra feeling full. That was the research I referenced earlier in this first plant sourced enzyme group, the glucoamylase. That was the big game changer, eye opener. When was this? We're talking 30 years ago, really, right? That it was hitting all the publications. This glucoamylase, most of the issues that people will describe as a problem when they eat, glucoamylase, that enzyme will help alleviate to a great degree feeling of fullness, a lot of gas
and bloating.
All sorts of bloating, all those sorts of things. Yeah, my sister Darcy, so when we founded Soul, Verdezymes was one of the very first products, right? It was one of the first 7 products at the company. When we launched, we had 7. Shortly thereafter, the Soul Megas came, and then we had 8. And she had told me, and she says, in recent years, like, I've always been able to eat everything or anything. In recent years, I'm getting this acid reflux all the time and all sorts of digestive issues. So she was really excited. Someone had talked to her about Verdezymes, and she was just taken with a meal. And that's what she did. She took 2 with every meal because that's what the label said. I found out this later. So she came and told me this whole story later, not while she was doing it. This is a few years later, where she was out and she sent her husband down to the office here to get another bottle. And he said, oh, I have to go back. I can't remember, for some reason, this is not where we store product. We store it at the warehouse, but we keep a little bit up here. And Lance was telling me, I can't go home without this. This is because Darcy, she said, we're out. This is how key it is. And then he told me the rest of the story. She figured out that if she took the 3 at night, and she was just taking 3, she didn't have to take it with her meals. Now, I'm not saying it'll be this way with everybody, but remember, she was taking them for several years. So her body was already, there was a lot of change that was happening. That, to this day, that's now been a number of years. She tells me, that's her answer. She takes 3 on an empty stomach before she goes to bed, and she doesn't have problems with digestion. Now, I'm not sure if it's never, like if she eats some heavy meal or crazy, I'm sure she'll take them, but that's just her normal. She doesn't have to worry about it when she takes them at night. So there is a cumulative effect. That's what I wanted to say with this, maybe why Debbie wanted me to share it. When you use these, don't be afraid to use them with meals for a long time. I don't know how many. I honestly have never asked Darcy, how long did you do it that way? Because I know it was for a few years. But I do know that now, the way she does it, she'll never miss at night. And that's why it's such a big deal for her, because that aspect has changed her day. So she clearly doesn't have to do it very, very often with her meals, because she does it at night. Yeah.
That's awesome, Greg. Again, I thank you, because this discussion could go for 3-4 more hours about how great these enzymes are. And I really do want to encourage you all to try them. Try them at different times during the day. Try them before a meal, after the meal, or with the meal. Try it on an empty stomach. If you are like me and you have battled a little bit of arthritis due to injuries over the years, you could wake up really stiff in the morning with a lot of pain. One thing that I have done is I have combined taking my enzymes, obviously at night on an empty stomach, to help break down all that acid buildup that hurts in my muscles and in my joints. But I also have added Soul Royal to my program because I firmly believe that when you give the body what it needs to make what it needs, it functions a lot better. And so for me, breaking down an animal enzyme to just break down other food is just very hard to think about, or actually taking an animal collagen product and thinking that your body can automatically use it. Its molecule is too big. It has to be broken down anyway. And then your body has to process it. It's not making collagen. It's not making something. This will help your body do what it needs to do. So that's why I believe in programs. It's why I combine products the way I do. I hope you found a lot of use in today's discussion. I want to thank Greg for being with us, and I know he has to run. I just wanted to share a very quick tip with you, something that's so important in the summer. I know most of us are able to get out and move, but sometimes, we're still talking about pandemic and virus. And so something that I have found that's great to stimulate your lymphatic system, obviously, is moving, right? The funnest way to move is on a mini trampoline, on a rebounder. And so just that movement of going up and down will really stimulate your lymphatic system. That's wonderful in the summer because we perspire and we can detox even better. But if you don't have a mini rebounder because you're in a hotel room like me and your space is limited, because there's a lot of boxes behind you. Jerry, can you hold this baby for me? And sorry, I had Lola on my lap. It's very simply just stand up, get up on your tippy toes, bring your arms up, and then drop down on your heel and do that 30 times. Just 30 times in the morning, 30 times after lunch. You'll be stimulating your lymphatic system without putting extra pressure on your joints by jumping or running or using a jump rope. But if you have a rebounder, use your rebounder because that's amazing. I want to thank you all for being here this week. Thank you, Sybil, for your testimony. Thank you to Greg again for sharing such amazing information. And we will, yes, you got your new box. Awesome. I'm gonna say goodbye for now, and